The date is June 12, 1996, Dooney night.
Hey, Dooney.
And this book is Bal Culture's Lord Meher. And we are now in the chapter of Shireen, Baba's mother. Shireen, the sweetness of beauty. And it's on 133. And it begins. It was 1877 in Iran. A Zoroastrian young lady named Bolandun was returning home after selling some knitted woolen socks and bonnets to a rich family in order to augment her income for the child she was pregnant with. It was late afternoon, and she was in a hurry to return home before sunset. Taking a shortcut, she passed through a narrow alley where a Muslim man was sprinkling water in front of his entranceway. When Bolandun was about to pass by the house, he shouted to her, "Hey, Kafir, you cannot pass by the sacred spot. Stay where you are and wait until the water evaporates. I will not allow you to move until every drop is dry." Bolandun was helpless, stricken with fear. The lane would not be dry for hours, and evening was fast approaching. She stood quietly as some Muslim boys appeared, taunting her with lewd remarks and mocking laughter. The young woman stood with tears in her eyes, and as the ruffians began to threaten and approach her, she prayed to God with all her heart to save her honor. Suddenly an old Muslim man carrying a cane happened to pass by the same alley and saw the young woman's plight. "How dare you!" he shouted to the gang, and beat them with his cane. "Get out of here!" The old man then lovingly consoled the frightened woman and escorted her safely to her home. The fatherly figure bid her peace, and Bolandun thanked him graciously, deeply comforted by his kindly manner. There's a photograph there of Bolandun Irani with the mother of Shireen photographed in her late years. Before the background is a grandson, Adi. Is that Adi Jr.? That's Adi Jr. That's the British. He lives No, is that Adi Irani? Or
wait a minute.
That's Adi Jr.
No, it's her grandson.
Adi Jr.
Yeah, it's Adi Jr.
Yeah.
That's Adi Jr.
Shireen's father.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, Shireen Bonner. Shireen Bonner's father.
Yeah, in England.
Wow.
And Dara's father.
But was he also her grandson? Was Adi also? Isn't Adi related to Babu?
Oh,
Adi
must be a
K?
different.
No, this is Adi, the
Shireen's son,
grandson.
Adi.
Really?
That has to
But
be.
if it isn't Adi K, Irani related to Babu?
No, he's
No, okay.
different.
Okay.
When Bolandun narrated this incident to her husband, Dorab, he knew it was unsafe and unwise to remain in Iran, and soon after made preparations to migrate to India. It was a difficult period. Bolandun was pregnant and already had one daughter named Dawla, who was nearly 3 years old. Thus, it was not until several months had passed that Dorab and his family were able to leave Iran for India. After a few days in Bombay, Bolandun gave birth to a second daughter, a beautiful baby whom she named Shireen, meaning sweet, or sweet beauty. A few weeks after Shireen was born, the family moved from Bombay to Pune, where Dorab opened a tea shop. Although newly settled, Dorab quickly won the friendship of many. He had a generous nature, helping the poor and giving medicinal herbs to the sick. He also had a healing gift, and many patients who came to him would be cured by his herbs. Dorab had a jovial nature and was sharp-witted. Once, while he was occupied in some serious work, one of his patients came to see him complaining of a severe cold. Dorab knew the fellow to be a hypochondriac, and in a joking manner told him to take a cold bath, then drink some sour buttermilk, wrap up in a wet blanket, and sleep in a draft.
That's great. And a draft.
Boy, what not to do. Dorab resumed his work, having no idea that the fellow would take him seriously and follow his obviously absurd advice. Oh no. Several days later, when the two met again, Dorab inquired after the man's health, and the fellow assured him that he was fine after following all of Dorab's instructions.
The power of suggestion.
Oh my God. Dorab was taken aback because such a routine could have resulted in pneumonia, and from that day on he was extremely careful in counseling people about their health. Dorab loved his little daughter Shireen very much. She was very intelligent, and her beauty befitted her name. Shireen's sweet ways and conversation delighted her entire family. When the little girl was 5 years old, she began her elementary schooling at the home of an Irani family, and this year of her life was destined to be significant. At this time, Shahryar was living with his sister Feroja. The dervish kept aloof and would spend his days in meditation and piety. Occasionally he would cause his sister anxiety by considering resuming his old life as a wandering mendicant.
Now, how old is he now? He's like
He's
a lot older.
I think he's in his 30s. He's like mid-30s.
Is that the way you spell Shireen?
Well, that was the original way in Persia. Then they start. So you want to take over now? Or?
Yeah. You want to read that?
Well, you go, then I'll go after.
Okay. Feroja's love for her brother was very deep. She did not want him to lose himself in what she thought was an aimless life. Who played Feroja was it Heather? No. Yeah, Heather was, and this is the last play on Mara's birthday. It was about, Baba's parents, and it ended with Baba's birth. And Richard that passed away was in it.
Richard Nimblin?
Yeah, he was in it. I have it on tape here. Yeah.
I've seen it.
Feroja would often tell Shahryar that he should get a job, marry a nice Zoroastrian lady, and settle down with a family. But Shahryar would politely, Alan Wagner played Shahryar, and I tell you, it wasn't very convincing for me. He's so overdramatic, He was going to the desert like, and I was like, kind of had to hold myself. But Shahryar would politely avoid the topic of marriage. He had not given up his longing to realize God. He had heard God speak to him, but he did not understand what he had meant. Broken-hearted, but not broken-spirited, he became restless to be alone again with his heart's companion under the open sky. Beloved God, what is your will? He earnestly implored. One day in 1883, Shahryar was overcome with melancholy and gently told Feroja that the time for him to leave had come. Tears filled Feroja's eyes, and she pleaded with her brother, "Don't leave. Stay here in Pune. I cannot allow you to go. Why do you want to roam throughout India as a beggar? It is pointless. Stay here and get married. Settle down. I beg you as your sister." "But I am not meant for such a life," pleaded Shahryar. "I cannot get married. It isn't my nature. I do not want to hear talk about marriage any more." Feroja began weeping, and Shahryar was moved by his sister's love. He knew that even if he explained his deepest longing, it still would not console her. Shahryar stared into a void. The divine voice once again echoed its message in his heart. "Your son, Shahryar, your son. Through your son you will know me." At that moment, little Shireen happened to be passing by on her way to school. The girl's white frock and red pants made her appear as an opening flower bud. Gazing out the window, Shahryar glanced at Shireen's sweet smiling face. How charming, how joyful this innocent child looked, and he spontaneously burst out, "If I ever marry, I will marry that girl. Otherwise, I will not marry at all. Shahryar could not understand how these words had come out of him. See, I don't even remember reading this before like this. I mean, you know, it's so delightful. When he regained his composure, he thought, there is no harm in what I have said, because, after all, who is going to agree to let a little girl marry a man at my age? He felt relieved, thinking, I have satisfied my sister. Now she will stop this troublesome discussion about marriage. However, just the opposite reaction took place in his sister. Pirozha's intense desire, instead of being extinguished, was stirred even more by her brother's statement. Immediately she ran from the house to her friend Golandun and fell on her knees with tears streaming down her face, pleading, Golandun, you are my dear friend. Today I have come to beg from you. Will you do me a great favor? Pirozha appeared desperate, and Golandun pitied her. What is the matter? What's happened? She inquired. Why do you look so unhappy? Tell me what is wrong. Save my brother, Pirozha cried. Only you can save my brother and assure my happiness. Anxiously, Golandun inquired, what is it you want me to do? How can I help your brother? Pirozha beseeched, my brother's marriage to your Shireen. Golandun, believe me, I know how it sounds, but you must agree. I have come to beg this of you. Moved by her plight, Golandun, out of pity for her dear friend, said, without thinking, yes, I promise. The two ladies embraced. Pirozha's joy knew no bounds. She felt as if she had won a great victory. Bursting with happiness, she hastened home to convey the good news to Shahryar.
What news?
You know, it's like an incredible fairy tale.
It is.
You
It
know?
sounds like the Grimm brothers or Hans Christian Andersen.
Yeah, because, you know, there's this element of, oh, I don't believe it. My friend Golandun, the mother of that little girl you saw, has promised her in marriage to you. Shahryar's reaction was that of resignation to God's will, and he accepted what had happened. He had made a promise to his sister. He could not go back on his word. However, when Shireen's father Dorab came to know of the arrangement, he became furious with his wife. They quarreled for days over the matter, but there was nothing he could do, for Golandun had also given her promise, and a promise was not to be broken. Besides, Golandun admired Shahryar and was not worried about marrying her daughter to such a saintly person. Dorab, on the contrary, could not bring himself to accept such a preposterous arrangement. However good a man Shahryar appeared, he was not the type of husband he had in mind for his favorite daughter. Something smells so good, doesn't it?
That's sweet.
Maybe
The cookie factory.
Isn't it food?
neighbors, I think.
You want me to start, or do you want
Let me go over to the next page.
okay.
Just this paragraph. Young Shireen, of course, had no idea of what was going on. She was overjoyed when the stranger put a shiny silver engagement ring on her finger, which she would show to her playmates.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, they're 30 years difference, aren't
Yes, easy.
But nowadays, that's like no did.
Well, it would if it were one of us. Really.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes she would be naughty, and if Shahryar happened to see her, he would sternly correct her. Yeah. Well, wasn't that the
Well,
difference?
30 years
between-
difference, I mean between adults. I don't mean
Yeah.
between a child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but wasn't Charlie Chaplin and Una like 30 years at least?
I think so. Probably at least.
Yeah. Shireen would complain to her mother, "Who is this man to tell me what to do?"
Put a ring on my finger.
You want to start?
Yeah, in order to support a wife and family, Sheriar needed employment. At first he served as a gardener, then as a cook, and later he moved to a more prominent position as the manager of a lodge. As he became acquainted with the others in Pune and gained their friendship, his friends started calling him Sheriar, and thus he abandoned his Persian name. Sheriar saved his money and after some years opened a tea shop. Later he bought another shop where he sold cold drinks, sandalwood, and incense used by the Zoroastrians in their religious ceremonies. Sheriar, however, was never interested in the world or the business solely for the sake of money.
Now, why do all these people, is this just a printing in my book? Their faces look like they're radiating. Is that in your book?
It could just be old photos, and they probably try to lighten up the faces.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were spotty.
Is yours like that too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the page after it, Sheriar is really
rubbed out.
Yeah.
It could be just a bad print.
Yeah, he's kind of gone. His face.
The prints were pretty well shot.
Sheriar saved his money, and after some ceremonies. Sheriar, however, was never interested in the world or business solely for the sake of money. The name of God, Yizdan, was still constantly on his lips, and he would tell people.
Money remembers that.
Whatever. Can you not interrupt?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Whenever, because then I forget.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Whatever happens is all God's will. Whatever happened was to happen, and whatever is to happen happens. It is God who does everything. Nevertheless, he knew he could not shirk from family responsibilities and dutifully carried out the necessary task of providing for a household.
Jai Baba.
Oh, Jai Baba.
9 years passed before Golandun promised to... Okay. 9 years passed before Golandun's promise to Feroja was fulfilled. Sheriar and Shireen were married according to the Zoroastrian custom in 1892. At that time, the bridegroom was 39 and his bride was 14.
Okay, how many years?
25.
Oh, that's not so bad.
Feroja and Golandun rejoiced, but Dorab still found the arrangement unacceptable and protested by refusing to attend the wedding. Sheriar, whose nature was exceptionally good and kind, adapted well to married life. He was witty and humorous and never, how do you pronounce that? Vacillated, of course, under any circumstances. His inner character shined through a healthy and strong physique. Although he had no formal education in Iran when he was a child, he suddenly gained knowledge of reading and writing Persian, Arabic, and Hebrew. It was as if a veil of his mind had been torn away, revealing this past knowledge to him. It is also said that in the course of his wandering as a dervish, he learned palmistry and astrology, but never practiced these occult sciences after he settled in Pune. It is also claimed that while he was a young dervish, he wrote 2 books in Persian before he left Iran. Be interesting to find those 2 books.
Yeah.
During the early years of their marriage, Sheriar taught Shireen Persian, reading the Divan of Hafiz and the Shahnameh. Oh, I like the way you say it. To her. He loved his young wife dearly and tried his best to please her. She was God's gift to him. Sheriar had been a strict vegetarian for many years during his life as a dervish, and after his marriage he continued to remain so. In Iran or Parsi families, meat is the mainstay of their diets, so preparing separate vegetarian food for Sheriar was a problem for Golandun, Shireen's mother, who did the cooking. Shireen was pregnant and in her condition needed much rest. Golandun confided confided to Shireen that if she cut little pieces of meat and mixed them in with Shariar's food, he would not know, and Shireen agreed to do. Shireen agreed to do this plan.
Oh no.
One day, she prepared dal with tiny pieces of mutton in it and served it to Shariar, who could taste that it contained meat. His ascetic vow was broken, and with a heavy heart, he told Shireen, "Child, may God forgive you, for you do not know what you have done."
Wow.
He gave.
Shireen,
She gave her vegetarian husband mutton.
Shariar
Secretly
Baba's father,
disguised it as what? Tiny piece of vegetable?
tiny pieces of mutton, and prepared it with his dal.
And they thought.
Because, yeah, but that was her mother's idea.
Yeah.
That night, Shireen dreamed. That night, Shireen dreamed. After she gave him the mutton, he says, "God forgive you. You do not know what you've done." That night, Shireen dreamed that two gigantic black men were standing over her with whips in their hands. One grabbed her and held her down, while the other one tried to force her to drink from a cup. Shireen looked into the cup and saw that it was filled with blood. See, she shook her head, screaming, "No, I won't drink it, I won't." One man angrily raised his whip to strike her. Terrified, she began weeping for mercy. At that moment, she awakened.
Oh, what a nightmare.
Yeah. The next
that can make you vegetarian.
Sure. You saw what a mess it was, how they killed those animals. Anyway, the next morning, when Shireen narrated this nightmare to her mother, Balandun understood its meaning and said, God forgives us. God forgive us, repenting for having persuaded Shireen to deceive her husband. But from that day onward, Shariar gave up vegetarianism and ate whatever she was served.
Oh. So she changed it?
Well, it was fated to change, but it's interesting. Because then Baba's saying doesn't matter what goes in, but what comes out of your mouth.
Yeah. But not to dwell on it, although he was mostly vegetarian.
But Kitty Davies said it would happen naturally, that people would go vegetarian.
Yeah, well, I'm starting there.
Are you vegetarian?
No,
I
love
only
meat.
vegetarian?
I eat fish and chicken.
Are you vegetarian?
No.
I eat fish and chicken.
You eat fish
and turkey. That's it. I won't eat anything else.
Beef. I love beef.
You love beef? I have a hamburger once a week or something. But you're vegetarian, aren't you?
No, but I tend
pretty
towards
close to it,
chicken and turkey. I could give up. When I have my teeth fixed, I'll probably give up.
I don't see you
But
eat.
you need,
I don't see you eat much meat.
I don't eat much meat. But, you may have to give up too because of your arthritis.
I know.
Yeah.
Especially red meat.
Yeah.
On January 2nd, 1893, Shireen, at the age of 15, gave birth to a boy who was named Jamshed, after the Persian mythological.
And you could turn to the footnotes.
Okay, footnotes.
Because those are, a lot of times they have a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah, I've seen a couple of
good stuff.
At page 141, see, it's right
Persian
here.
mythological.
You just look page 141. No, just go by the page number.
Oh, yeah. 141.
It's in the back there.
Well, I have to miss.
Oh, this is great.
Jamshed is the name of the mythological king who rules the Paris. Fairies or angels.
Oh, fairies or angels.
Wow, what a great name.
Also, we should name some Baba children.
Well, there is one.
Jamshed.
Jamshed Irani.
Oh, really?
Dara and Amrit.
What else does it say?
This king may be the same as Indra in Hindu mythology.
Oh, it's the same as Indra.
Nothing in the everything. Oh, now we got to go to the nothing in the everything.
Do you want to see what it says?
Well, I'm almost done.
Okay.
So, however, as she was too young to fully accept the responsibilities of motherhood, her older sister Dawla began caring for the baby. Dawla and her husband Faridun Nuraj Irani lived in the town of
Lonalva.
Le Navla.
No,
That's close
That's
to
a- that's a- that's a-
Navla.
It's
Yeah,
a
that's
hill
that,
station.
that hill station.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
you,
yeah,
when you
yeah.
take the train, you
Yeah.
Lanava.
Uh-huh.
Lanava. Not far from Pune, where they owned a restaurant. As was a custom among Zoroastrian relatives, Daula and her husband accepted completely responsibility for the child and raised Jamshed as their own son.
Ooh. What happened that?
There's Faradun. I love it. Faradun and Daula. Their picture's clearer than
Yeah.
Shesh. Too bad they couldn't get a better, or couldn't touch this up before they printed it.
Yeah.
You know, touch the photo up.
Well, all the photos, that's
But
the
this
worst
one,
photo
I
in
thought
the
they
whole
all were
book.
carrying a big rod or something, and it's a rip in the photograph.
Oh.
And so what's the next page here?
light.
Light, the sun. MeherBaba is rising.
Oh, that's the end of the chapter. Oh, that's the end of the
love
chapter.
it.
Now it's the birth of Marilyn.
Yeah.
Oh.
Look at this beautiful.
Nice
picture.
Baba. Baba's birthday.
Now
So
it's
do you
Baba.
read 2 chapters at,
Here you go.
Oh, we
Like
keep
that.
going
or do you just keep going
Light,
till when?
light.
till 9:30.
Oh, 9:30. Ooh, I'm going to have to leave before then, guys.
Okay, when
Yeah,
Gus
let's get
give
to bed.
Gus.
What do you? Oh, do
Lynn
you
is
want
not
to read?
finished.
Yeah.
You finished Baba's stuff?
Do you want to read?
Finish?
Yeah, do you want to say
You
something?
want to read?
About Baba. About Baba's Baba, father.
Yeah.
The story is finished.
Yeah, now we're
Now
starting
on
on
to
Marilyn.
Marilyn. Marilyn's
Mother.
birth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Read it.
Somebody all merciful. Okay?
Should I make
Yeah,
light?
go ahead.
Oh, you have to do. let me
Some
put
months passed, Shireen again conceived. This pregnancy from the beginning was nearly a blissful experience. She felt the natural joy of an eagerly expectant mother. Shireen had been not prepared for her duty
Loud.
with her firstborn. Whenever her sister, Daula, would bring Jamshed to her, she would shy away from the baby. During the pregnancy, however, her feelings were quite the reverse, as her maternal instincts had matured. The young woman's heart longed to shower her love upon her unborn child. This time Shireen desired to be a mother. The time was now reading on their own house, was residing in their own house at 816 Butler Street in Pune, now called MeherBabaLibrary. The house was called Popla. Did I pronounce that?
Yeah, Bopla.
Which means pumpkin house. For next to its entranceway was a large round stone resembling the shape of a pumpkin.
You saw that.
During her pregnancy, Shireen would often have wonderful dreams and describe them to her mother, Golden Doon, who would interpret their meaning. From the day of the conception, the young one was conceived that this child would be extraordinary and remarkable. Shirayar would sense his young wife's expectations. He would read beautiful ghazal to her from the Divan of Hafiz, explain the poetry in its meaning. Shirar was a poet and he would occasionally compose manajats, Zoroastrian prayers or spiritual songs in honor of the child's birth.
God.
Is that how you say Manojats?
Zoroastrian.
Zoroastrian.
What is that? What was it?
As to be explained, the whole family hey, be quiet. As to be expected, the whole family had, and even neighbors anxiously awaited the truth of Shireen's second child. Shireen was more lovely and radiant than ever, and all anticipated a child of beauty or remarkable child. The atmosphere of the earth seemed surcharged, and it was emanating from a humble Pune lane. The cosmos itself was excited, but what was emanating from earth, a new age was dawning. God himself was incarnating. The most wonderful event in 1400 years was about to occur.
1400 years.
In the early morning of Sunday, February 25th, 1894, The long-awaited moment of our age arrived. Shireen was lying asleep in bed at the David Sassoon Hospital. Her mother, Golan Doon, was by her side. The midnight gong sounded 12 times in the distance. Nurses gave treatment to look in on her. The expectant mother was relaxing in deep sleep. Suddenly, Shireen awoke and told her mother she had a vision, a dream. Golan Doon anxiously inquired, "A vision? What did you see in the dream, my dear?" Shireen answered, "I saw a glorious Christian like the sun, sitting in a chariot. His cool brilliance pervaded the atmosphere. A few people were pulling this chariot, while thousands of people were leading the man in the procession. Tens of thousands of eyes were gazing on him, consoled by his divine radiance. I too was in the procession, and marveled at the luster of his face. His light fell on the whole procession. The people's eyes were fixed on him. He could not look away." Hearing this, tears of joy came to Golan Doon's eyes, and she said, "Shireen, my daughter, a very auspicious son will be born to you. His name will be spread all over the world. He will be among thousands of people. One day it will be carried in the grand procession, as you dreamt. He will be given special reverence and honor." The mother's interpretation confirmed Shireen, and she soon fell fast asleep again. The hospital was quiet. A changing atmosphere of the planet was about to occur. However, much of our age anticipated what was about to take place. It would take many years for mankind to interpret what this change would mean. A gentle sweetness filled the air, and the silence of unimaginable joy pervaded the hospital. He who pervades was coming. Daily, hundreds of thousands of human beings are born in the world, but there is no discernible change in the atmosphere of the planet at their birth. That Sunday morning, the weather was neither hot nor cold. The breeze that was blowing through the Puna had a different significance. While people slept, the cool breeze gently wafted over them, soothing them in their slumber. Stillness came. The quietude blanketed the city, and it seemed as if the din and hub of the world had been absorbed and still. Sound in this hour. How our age must be wished that the pieces be ever present. How happy life would be. Okay, you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yes, now yes.
Then the birds started singing, piercing the stillness with their songs. There was
Who started singing?
The birds.
The birds. We see. Then the birds started singing, piercing the stillness with their songs. There was distinct merriment in their voices. How sweet were their songs! How hearing the effect of the chirpings in the stillness of the coming dawn. If only life's causes subsided in their melody, the true dawn, the soul of man would blossom forth. Shireen's labor pain started, and the Catholic nun was summoned from her morning prayers. Golan Doon sat near her daughter, watching anxiously. Shireen waited outside her room, continuously repeating God's name. Yes, then. Yes, then. The hospital night watcher made his round as he struck the gong 5 times. The crying of the baby was heard. How innocent and how pleasant was the sound of the newborn. The birds increased the joyous notes, and even the sun seemed excited, eager to rise over the horizon. Golan Doon emerged from the room with joy. She smiled at Shireen and lovingly exclaimed, "A son, a son." Shireen was filled with happiness and immediately rushed into the room to see his newborn son. Puna, who was just was starting to awaken, was it because of the baby's first cry? It was as if it had proclaimed, "Arise now, I am the awakener." Although people were awakening at the time of his birth, little did they know that a day would come when he would awaken them from the life of sleep. At that holy moment, by taking birth in the early hours of dawn, the child was signaled his arrival as the awakener, the avatar of the age. The relatives and neighbors soon came to the hospital to see the newborn child. They were overjoyed and admired the baby's beauty. Indeed, the sun was shining in the house of Shireen and Shireen. Joy abundant in Shireen's with Shireen's hearts, and in their relatives and friends' hearts also. The joy of the day will last for age to come. The atmosphere was filled with wonderful freshness and spontaneity of good. Only the Father knew that the source of it wasn't the child. This child brought the new freshness and goodness to the whole world. With the infant in her arms, Shireen returned to Oba house in the horse-drawn Tonga.
Tonga is in like a things. Sit inside and go.
Look with the horse carriage.
Yeah.
You mean horse and buggy?
Probably Indonesia.
The news of Shireen's newborn son spread throughout the neighborhood, and those who went to see the infant would become wonderfully contented. When their eyes gazed upon the infant son, they felt peaceful. A peace befell them, mysteriously making them forget their cares and woes. A name befitting this child had to be chosen, and the Persian name Marwan was selected, since he was born in the month of Mehr, the sun or light. According to the Zoroastrian calendar, however, his parents and relatives always affectionately called the child Merag. Shireen loved Marwan fervently and always thought of him as her firstborn. At that time, she did not understand her intense love for Marwan, nor her feelings for the addiction of Jamshed.
Well, let's look at the star.
Is that a footnote there?
Yeah.
So,
What date?
147.
145?
7.
147. Okay. Marwan derived from Meher, means one who is of the sun, one who possesses light or who personifies light.
Allah.
That's it, right? Okay, what was that now?
There on the bottom. You're almost done. On the bottom. After Marwan, there's a star. Towards the bottom. Yeah, down. A little further. You've got one paragraph there left. Let me see. I think it's right.
Right here.
No.
The infant nursed well, and the bond between child and mother was strong. Life was happy in Poplar House for Shireen and Shireen with the presence of the son. A few months passed off after the interrupted happiness, and then Shireen had a dream which she narrated to Shireen.
You're reading tonight.
I'm getting tired.
Okay, Fred's turn.
That's okay.
Fred and then Deb.
Right on top over here. First,
A few months a few months passed of uninterrupted happiness, and then Shireen had a dream, which she narrated to Shiriyar. I dreamt I was standing at the doorway of our home, holding Merag in my arms. Nearby was a well, and out of it rose the figure of a small but striking woman, a splendorous diva, like a Hindu goddess. She was rising out of the center of the well, and I admired her lavish green sari and the many green bangles adorning her arms. On her forehead was painted multicolored bright jasmines. In her hand she held an arti worship tray containing flowers, burning camphor, incense, and oils. I stood motionless and quiet in fascination of her until she beckoned me to hand over Merag. The goddess implored me, "Give me your son. Give him to me." Frightened, I held on to Merag all the more tightly and awakened from my dream. I was relieved when I saw Merag sleeping by my side. After this dream, Shireen would have thoughts of her son as having an exceptional calling in life. Shireen's father, Dorab, had been so unyieldingly opposed to his daughter's marriage to Shiriyar that he even forbidden Shiriyar to visit his house. But after the birth of Marwan, Dorab had a change of heart. He was so attracted to this little grandson that he went to see the infant Marwan every day. Dorab would visit Sheriar and Shireen in their home, which he had never done during their marriage, just to be able to gaze at Merwan's attractive lotus face. The grandfather bowed to his grandson's sweet splendor, and the baby responded with affection. Merwan loved to be in the company of his grandfather. Then gradually, over a period of several months, Dorab began looking upon his son-in-law Sheriar with love and respect. It had been over 11 years since they had conversed. People thought Merwan was a very unusual child. Even in his childish mischief, he was exceptional. For example, when Merwan was 11 months old, one day Shireen left him outside in a cradle underneath a tree while she went back to the kitchen to cook. When she returned, a dreadful sight nearly made her faint. A deadly black cobra had crawled into the cradle and had curled itself around Merwan, who was happily playing with it. Terrified, Shireen screamed loudly for help. The cobra quietly slipped away as if it had only been innocently playing with a little child. Shireen clasped Merwan in her arms, and she later related that he looked at her as if to say, "Why did you interrupt my play? I was having fun." By the time the neighbors gathered, the cobra had disappeared. The neighbors consoled Shireen, assuring her that this was an auspicious sign of her son's exceptional future. Merwan started walking before he was a year old. His mother was pleasantly surprised when one day he stood up and walked to her without stumbling. But his new skills soon proved vexing to her. No matter what Shireen tried, Merwan would not be kept inside the house and constantly managed to escape. Little whippersnapper. A 1-year-old. One day Shireen became so exasperated that she picked him up outside and, taking him back into the house, tied his leg to the bedpost with an old sari. She put a plate of puffed rice and some water near him, and then returned to the kitchen. Merwan started crying, upset by his loss of freedom. But Shireen ignored him, and eventually little Merwan fell asleep. When Shireen came to check on Merwan, she found him sleeping. On his cheeks, tears sparkled like pearls. Shireen was overcome with tenderness for her son. He looked so helpless, leashed to the bedpost, and she untied him. Moments after awakening, however, and finding himself no longer bound, he ran outside to the lane. A little scallywag. Shireen would often have to tie Merwan to the bed and then continued until he grew to a more manageable age. Sometimes Sheriar would come home, find his son tied, and free him out of pity. But after he had played with his father, he would escape outside until a passing neighbor would pick him up and bring him back to the house. Wow, what a scallywag. Oh, yeah, like Buddy.
No matter what gates we have or whatever, he finds ways to get out.
That's amazing.
When Merwan's being his mother, oh Lord, she really had it.
So it shows you, folks, our kids are not bad at all.
But in India, they don't have doors, kind of. You know what I mean? Like that Akbar press, the door was always open. It's weird. The windows, they don't have screens.
When Merwan started talking, he called his mother Memo and his father Bobo. And these names of affection lasted for many years. Memo and Bobo.
Because, Money calls her mother Memo.
Memo, yeah.
I mean, she didn't Bobo, that's true.
Shireen would call her husband affectionately Shorog. Merog was Merwan, and Shorog was... Like Rog must be like Rog must be like
the ooh they put on.
Well, it's just like you call Freddie.
Endearing.
Yeah.
You say Freddie or Rosie.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's endearing.
Debbie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Intimate.
Lindy.
Yeah.
Lindy.
I mean, you don't like Lindy. Oh no, we had a Lindy last week. Remember? Lindy, we go to the procession.
Oh no.
Oh no. No, we better not talk about that. The boy who
7 times.
the boy who was adored by the entire neighborhood and doted upon by all, and doted upon by all, was also referred to affectionately as Merog by neighbors. Merwan had 3 maternal aunts, Dawla, Perozha, and Banu, and 2 maternal uncles, Dinshaw and Rustam. All loved their nephew, and they would come to the family's house just to see our Merog.
Wow.
So you want to take over, Debbie?
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Blessed.
Shahryar's elder brother, Codec, even traveled from Iran to visit the young child. After working for several years in Bombay, he had returned to live in Iran. However, he would return to India for 6 months every year after Merwan was born. Once, Shireen confronted her brother-in-law. Koda, you say you can't afford this, you can't afford that. How is it you can now afford to come to India every year? Codec smiled and replied, I have to see Merog. Don't I? I am his uncle, am I not?
So that's him there?
The popular fellow.
Look at him.
Wow, Rustam and
And
Codec.
Codec is quite an interesting
I
looking
know. Yeah, did you see?
man. Looks like a walrus.
Oh, he
There was
does.
a couple Codecs stuff.
He does, Fred. He's strange
It's
looking.
common name in the Rostorian family.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
God gifted.
Oh,
Oda is God, you know, by
Oh,
Iranian language.
gift from God.
Gift from God. Yeah.
oh.
Oh, beautiful. The child's countenance was unusually charming. His sweet smile would spread gladness in the hearts of all who met him. His face shone like a flame of delight. The child was so attractive that even casual acquaintances were awed by him. It's the God in him.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying the God in him. The boy's golden hair was alluring, so alluring that for 5 years Shireen did not allow it to be cut.
I had gold hair.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, golden, brown hair was gold in it.
It was pretty golden.
Oh, it says
Oh,
golden. It
The
says
young
golden.
picture.
The boy's
There's
golden
a young
hair.
picture where it's really...
Yeah. The golden locks fell to his little shoulders, and strangers would often mistake the boy for a European, as blonde-haired children are uncommon among
She was
Persians.
pretty blonde,
I
yeah.
didn't know this.
The book fell behind me.
And Heidi is called hair too. My daughter is Persian.
My father
Very
is a
seldom they have Iranian old hair. All are black hair, you know, black eye, yeah. But seldom, like Heidi, like...
So you can't. I've never heard of this story
Yeah.
before about Baba's blonde
Yeah.
hair. Have you guys known about it?
Very seldom.
I knew he had red highlights in his hair, but I never knew his hair was golden as a child.
And it
My
says
hair
that,
was white.
that he grew, his locks fell to his shoulders.
You see? Mommy told us such a story one time.
Yeah.
Rosalie, are you coming?
I don't know. Bonnie told you, by the time Rosalie come, I want to tell you a story that Bonnie told us. One day, Baba was 2 years old, and he came out, sneaked from the house, he came out in the street. You know, in India, in the evening, about the cow, you know, cow, it's not cow, but some other word they have.
Bullock?
Yeah.
Bullock.
Like 200, 500, they come round one time. Not
like
all the
a
time, they come
stampede.
in the evening they gotta go home. The street gets all dark, black for when they come. Nobody can stop them, nobody. Swear to God.
To protect him?
To protect him.
All was running, only Baba was sitting in front, in the middle, and all running, one cow was in front
One
of Baba.
cow stopped
Protecting
to
Baba.
protect,
Yeah.
and then the rest
Yeah,
ran.
and he was leaning on
You
the
asked
cow like
Bonnie,
this,
she will
she's
tell you
saying.
the
He was
story.
like leaning
Well,
She
he
will
was
tell you the
two, so
story.
he couldn't have
He
been.
was running interference.
Yeah. Bonnie
Maybe he
told
was
us.
leaning
The
holding
mother
his
said to
probably
the
not
Bonnie,
crying at all, right?
at all. And mother said that he
Adventurous.
died, you know, it's finished. Everybody, neighbor, everybody, it was sitting beautiful there and cow was in front protecting one cow.
Oh my. Oh, do you have that photo?
If you go India,
Oh, Rosalie has that photo
If you
of
go India, please ask Money, that Kathy said the story you told them. She will
Okay.
tell you.
about the cow.
Yeah.
too.
Oh, no.
Bullock, the bullock
Bullock,
saving
yeah.
Baba.
I don't know why husband, I think I've seen it. His hair looks quite dark here. But I saw a picture one time. Maybe I'm confusing it with my father.
Well,
Yeah, my father had golden hair.
The youngest picture I saw, Baba, was a little boy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, this one
Well,
here.
short. By then his hair was short.
Yeah.
It was short, but he's quite old
No,
here.
but the thing is,
He's 5 years
yeah,
old.
well, how old Baba was just
How
a
old
baby
is he?
here. He was just like 2 or 3. Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
But when they say golden,
That's
it's
awesome.
pretty strong.
Yeah, it is. Well,
Golden curls.
special child.
Although the boy...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, this uncle, there's a picture later on where he's holding this uncle, a beautiful picture at Nasik. He's holding this uncle here, his hand. I just remember this.
Although the boy was young, his mother had already started making grand plans for him. Shireen would often tell her relatives, "When Merah grows up, I shall send him to England for his education. My boy will become a doctor or a scientist." As a child, he was healthy, except for one affliction. He had a sensitive stomach and weak bowels. His mother thought he ate the wrong things and would spank him for it. Seeing her spanking the boy one day, Shireen's sister, Dawla, stopped her, saying, "Shireen, don't spank Merah. I cannot bear to see him crying." Shahryar did not lay a hand on his son. He was quiet about it, but he always knew that Merwan was the son that God had promised him. It always seems like he was always quiet about that, wasn't he?
Yeah, about anything that was amiss or awry, he would just keep to himself. And
But I don't even think he talked about his son as being God or did anything like that ever.
I know, but he had that, remember that voice in her voice?
He just knew and just was very...
Your son will...
Yeah, all of that.
We didn't try to get him on a game show, a contract with a movie company. The boy followed the normal course of life. When he was about 5 years old, he attended kindergarten at the Punjabi Gujarati school, where he learned the Gujarati ABCs and basic numbers. Merwan did not like arithmetic and would complain to Shahryar about his problem. I told Mia that, so it made her feel better.
Yeah.
Though intelligent, studying mathematics became a great headache to him and became his first source of unhappiness in life.
Oh, no.
he was a poet.
Yeah.
Let's face it,
I know. One day at the Punjabi school during an arithmetic lesson, Merwan had an overwhelming experience, which he later described. "I saw a great glitter of circles with tiny points in them, as if suns, moons, and stars were being projected from those points." Wow.
It's a little bit of the future. Dad.
His teacher noticed that Merwan suddenly looked dazed or dizzy, and as he lost consciousness, he fell out of his chair. She rushed to him and laid him on a bench, sprinkling water to revive him. After a while, the boy regained consciousness, and his teacher asked, "Merwan, are you all right? What happened to you?" The boy muttered, "A halo. I saw a divine halo." The teacher could not understand what the child meant and inquired, "Merwan, how do you feel? Would you like to go home?" "I am all right," the boy replied. "I don't need to go home." But when the teacher resumed her lesson, Merwan sighed with regret, for after enjoying the Nur state, or the light of God, an experience of divine effulgence, here was this awful
Reality check.
See, that's great to hear that.
Even the Avatar had to go through some
horrible thing.
horrible
Where you want
math.
to dream and it bursts your dream. It's like after singing Quali or something, and to go back to real.
I would pass out in school bus, usually because I was asleep.
Oh, really?
Bored
Did
with
you
math.
really?
Oh, just do once in a while, fall asleep in
Fall
class.
asleep, yeah.
Not really pass out.
Oh, gosh.
Just go unconscious.
No wonder, right?
And then Terry would nudge you. You'd have it.
No. One day, Merwan wanted to buy some candy, so he sneaked a coin from his father's pocket. At the neighborhood store, he chose what he wanted and handed the coin to the shopkeeper, but the man returned it to him, saying, "This money is no good. You have to give me back the sweets."
Kennedy came.
Yeah.
Oh, Kennedy.
Kennedy.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Yeah.
We're reading about MeherBaba's child.
Yeah. And you disliked arithmetic?
Well, actually, I gotta make a little detour.
Where are you going, upstairs?
Now I'm going to the mention.
Okay. We'll see in due time. Take your time.
Yeah.
Meherwan walked home disappointed and approached his father. Bobo, this money is no good. Give me some good money.
Never mind that I stole it from you.
You're right. Sheriar handed his son another coin and said, "Does this man want money that can walk?"
Oh, we got to see the
Oh,
footnote.
yeah. Okay.
What does that mean? Money that can walk. What
Money
does
that can
mean?
walk. What does that mean? Oh, walk was a colloquial expression referring to currency in circulation. The coin that the shopkeeper returned was no longer legal Indian currency.
Oh,
I
it was
thought
like
it was
a
intuitive and said, you
Yeah,
can't
that's
use
like
that
law.
because you stole it. from
I
your
still think
father.
it was a setup, though, to teach him not to do that. So,
This money can walk.
yeah. Okay. Meherwan examined the coin, and puzzled by it, he asked, "Where are its legs? Is this a magic coin, Bobo? How can it walk?" Hearing these innocent remarks, Sheriar burst out laughing, explained the expression to his son. And then over opposite is entrance to Bobla House, the pumpkin house, Sheriar's and Shireen's first house, where Meherwan lived as a child. Meherwan lived as a child
Oh, have
in
you ever
Pune.
been in that place?
Yeah, it's a little simple place.
Yeah, and it's this upstairs,
Yeah.
like, there's not enough room
Yeah.
for anybody.
Yeah.
It's basically a big
It's
loft.
like an attic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this kitchen area, and
Yeah.
these two little stalls, and they all live there.
Yeah.
And it was more upstairs? It was upstairs?
Well, there was like the living area was upstairs, and then
Yeah.
the kitchen area. Oh, it was very
But,
strange.
but then how did he used to be in his room? That's where he'd hide his food?
yeah, so
Yeah.
was there a division of? I was there last year. I'll have to go look at it.
Yeah, yeah. I just remember it vaguely
Not
that I
last
remember
year,
them
last
saying this
time.
is where he hid his food.
Yeah, under his. Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
bed there, but I don't
Yeah.
think that was his original bed. Probably not.
Yeah.
Apparently, the landlord was kind of a skunk. The owner.
Interesting.
We're just looking at Pumpkin House.
Live with certain circumstances. Meherwan had a mischievous side and continued to secretly sneak money from his father's pockets. But he also had a generous, kind nature, and he would give the money to beggars that came to his street. Shireen was disturbed that beggars would start knocking at the door and complain to Sheriar, telling him not to keep money in his pockets where Meherwan would go get it, where Meherwan would get at it. One day, Sheriar hung his coat on a high hook, but when no one was around, Meherwan climbed on a stool and grabbed some coins. Outside, he distributed the coins to a few poor men who had come to the house. Sheriar and Shireen were watching from a distance. Shireen was rebuking Sheriar about it when Meherwan came in. Immediately, Shireen began scolding him. "Why do you always steal money? You are a thief." And Meherwan turned to his father and asked, "Am I a thief, Bobo?" Laughing, Sheriar consoled his son, "No, Mirag, you are not a thief. Thieves do not give money to the poor." Meherwan would also steal sweets from the kitchen, leaving his mother wondering where they had gone. Despite her best efforts, she could not solve the mystery, and the sweets kept disappearing no matter where she tried to hide them. One day she caught hold of her son. "Meherag, are you stealing sweets from the kitchen?" With a surprised look, the boy replied, "What? Sweets? Memo, you know I only like dal and rice with spinach. Why are you asking me about sweets?" He was so earnest that Shireen believed him. As a young boy, Meherwan was also very fond of cream, which he would stealthily skim from the top of the milk pot.
Secret.
He would always share the stolen goodies with his friends. Near St. Vincent's High School, an old Parsi couple ran a small shop serving soft drinks, which Meherwan frequented with his friends. Each time he came, the proprietress would dole out sweets to him by the handful, and he would share them with his friends. Whenever the husband was present, however, he would prevent this by ordering the boy out of the shop. The kindly old woman, nevertheless, would let Meherwan know that he and his friends could come around to the back door. She had a special affection for Meherwan in particular. Who would like to read? You want to read?
Oh, you want to
Okay.
read?
How do you spell the memo?
M-E-M-O.
She said who would like to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
M-E-M-O.
Yeah.
Yeah, then Rosalind and Lynn again.
I'm the last paragraph on the left there.
Yes,
Oh,
you is for
blah, blah, blah.
Yes,
Okay.
Like mama.
Like mama. Yeah, but M-E-M-O.
Mama, yeah.
Yeah.
Near St.
Mama.
Vincent.
Mama, yeah.
Mama.
The Irani called Mama.
Excuse me.
What's water?
Among Marwan's boyhood friends were Abdul Ghani.
Wait, what? We
Huh?
here?
No,
Yeah.
she's right here.
We're already down.
Yeah, I'm down there.
Oh,
That's where I
okay.
am.
That's actually.
That's where I was.
Among Marwan's boyhood friends were Abdul Ghani, a Muslim later known as Dr. Ghani Musa,
Yeah,
Oh.
Dr. Gunny.
Codec Rustam Irani, nicknamed Kodu, Bailey
Oh, Bailey, yeah.
Jahangir Irani, who always spelled his name Bailey, Mia Khan, Pakiwala, and several others, most of whom were of Persian descent like himself. They comprised his neighborhood playmates, and with them Marwan delighted in playing such activities as marbles, hide and seek, flying kites, gilananda, and at night a game called Nighttime in the Moonlight.
Yeah.
Once when Marwan and his friends were playing in their neighborhood lane, a man appeared pushing a cart with a board of nails, over which rings were to be thrown to try one's luck. The boys wanted to play, but Marwan stated that they should not waste their money gambling. But the others argued that they were eager to try their luck. Altogether, they had 4 annas, about 25 cents, and they purchased some rings. Each ring was thrown and missed. Only one remained, intended for Marwan. He tossed the last one and scored, thus recovering their money. Marwan told his companions, "It is only because I played that you got your money back. If any of you had tossed that ring, you would have lost."
Wow.
Yeah.
In an early diary, one of Marwan's companions, Bailey J. Irani, described Marwan as follows. Marwan was of a benevolent nature, and all his companions were extremely fond of him. He was our leader and was loving to all. He would settle any dispute among us amicably. If by chance we found him absent for a day, we would go to his home and inquire about him. In his style and conduct, Marwan was simplicity itself. He did not have a tinge of pride and knew not what arrogance was. From childhood, he was straightforward and liberal, more conscious of others' misery than his own. He was devoid of family pride or craving for name, fame, respect, or honor. In his thinking, he was clean and pure, and from his boyhood shunned the contact of girls or women, keeping himself aloft from them. He was merciful toward any injured animal, and I remember once, when he found a dead sparrow in his house, he buried it with an elaborate funeral service and prayers. He was always happy and cheerful, and succumbed to the wishes of those who insisted on his compliance. I never saw him find fault with anyone, and his sincere dictum was that all, in one way or another, were good. He chose his friends who had a simple and candid nature. Rougher boys told him to shun these others' company, but he would often turn a deaf ear to them and continue his association. The one defect in his character, if it could be called a defect, was that if he was upset or troubled, never in his life would he confide in us. He would not open his heart to us and tell us what was on his mind. He also did not let any of us know of his suffering, and if he felt ill, he would simply suffer quietly in silence.
Wow.
Should I continue?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Shiriar's tea shop was located in the Quarter Gate section of Pune.
Is it still there?
Yeah,
Is it?
yeah. Shariar Cafe.
Oh,
Yeah, it's still there.
Money told us, yeah.
Oh.
It's interesting. Where the family resided at the time. They lived for 2 years in a rented home at Bhagwanda's Chow, although they had not sold Bokla House and later moved back there. During this time, one day, Marwan was walking down the street on his way to a nearby field. Suddenly, a herd of large water buffaloes came stampeding down the street toward.
This is it.
yeah.
Water buffalo.
Oh, yeah.
Good, good.
Oh,
He was older though, not a baby.
He said One is a 2-year-old. Okay.
This isn't
No, no,
fair.
no.
Okay.
Shireen shouted warnings to him, thinking her own son was about to be crushed to death. The buffaloes charged straight toward him, but something quite miraculous occurred. Some spectators said that one moment the child was about to be trampled, but then they saw him sitting in the street, and the buffaloes just avoided him. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to read it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's throwing me off. Okay. The buffaloes just avoided him, running to either side of him. Other spectators claimed that one buffalo just stopped in the street and hovered over the child, protecting him from the rest that were stampeding. Others claimed that at one moment they saw him trampled by the buffaloes, but the next moment they saw him safely standing on the other side of the street as the herd charged by. Whatever the true account, all were astounded by Merwan's miraculous escape.
So they regress him back to when he's young there.
No, I
No.
think he was.
This
He must
was,
be
he
about.
was on the street on the way to a field.
Yeah, but it sounds like he's pretty young.
Well, he's young where they're talking about the ring toss with his mates.
Oh, okay.
He must be like 8 or 9
Oh,
or
okay.
something.
Yeah.
I wish they'd say the
Yeah.
Well, they said they lived for 2 years in a rented
Well,
room
Monty would know.
in Bhagwanda's Chow,
Yeah.
although they had not sold both.
Well, he's got to be older than that.
During this
Monty
time.
tells that story.
Yeah, he could have been 2 or 3 because it said during this time
I
one
had
day
the
Merwan
idea
was
that he
walking.
was quite little when that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One is a 20-year-old.
So I guess they must have regressed in the story
Yeah,
here.
yeah, well, it says
I
that.
think they did.
Yeah.
Just because they brought up this place, and that's where
And
it
then
happened.
here they go back to his little picture
Oh,
again.
yeah.
So
Right,
it must
right.
be young.
He obviously, in the book, it said he had golden curls, and he was quite young, and he had golden hair curls, and they thought people
I'm
thought he was
sorry,
a European.
if I be alive, if God wants it, one time when I see Bauji, because this book is written by Bauji. isn't it?
Yeah.
I want to ask him, because the book we read in Iranian, we have about the Babajan stuff. Babajan was not king's daughter. Babajan was regular family peasant. But the other day, president for us was a king, a big family, a royal.
Yeah.
No, it
Maybe
was
you're
not that.
talking about her maybe you're talking about her previous lifetime when she was Rabia.
She was
And Rabi, reincarnation for Rabi, I know that, but Babajan was not regular family.
Well,
They wanted to make him marry. He was
well,
12 years
that's
old, marry
something
with
somebody could ask.
Yeah, you have to check.
I asked Bauji.
You should
Yeah.
write him a letter
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, because he always responds.
Yeah.
Well, he'd be happy. to-
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we ready?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Shariar and Shireen were destined to have 9 children, 7 sons and 2 daughters. Of these, 3 died in childhood. One son named Shermand at 7 months, another son named Jehangir at 2 years, and a daughter named Freeney, who died of the plague in 1902 as a young girl.
There's a dagger.
Let's
She
go
looked-
see
There's a
that.
dagger.
No.
Okay, better.
I'll read it.
No.
I got
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Fred,
I'll read it. It is worth noting that Franny's last words spoken to her mother were, "I have to go. The beautiful white horse has come."
Oh.
Merwan's sister's words are particularly significant when one considers that Vedantists affirm that the avatar during this cycle of time will be known as the Kalki, the white horse avatar.
Oh, wow.
So Kalki, K-A-L-K-I.
Kalki.
That's close to kanji. Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay, you ready? Okay. Okay, however, a short time after Freeney died, the family's grief was lessened. A new brother was born named Jal on September 15th, 1902.
Wow. My
He's a
dad's birthday is
Virgo. There was
the
all
18th.
sorts
My
of
dad
Virgos.
was born in 1912, so 10 years later.
Yeah. My dad, too. Our dads are born the same day and the same year.
Yeah.
Isn't that true?
We must have come down from heaven together.
Yeah. I said, oh no, what's going to happen to your daughter, my
Oh,
son?
no.
No, this weirdness. His father and mine are born the same day, the same
Oh
year.
my gosh,
September
Freddie.
18, 1912.
Yeah,
I'm going to see
September
my dad
18th,
next week.
Greta
I'm
Garbo. That's Greta
flying
Garbo.
back on Friday for a weekend. And so,
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Also in September of 1902, Merwan, at age of 8, a the age of 8, was admitted to the Sardar Khan Dastur Nashirwan Zoroastrian school in the camp area of Pune. Yeah, it is. Although in the Padamji, schoolboys and girls were taught separately. In this school, classes were coeducational. This was Merwan's first coeducational experience, and he did not like it. When he went home for lunch the very first day of school, he refused to go back in the afternoon. Despite entreaties from his mother, he would not reveal the reason for his attitude. Later that same day, when Jamshed came home, he revealed to Shireen that because of the presence of the girls in the class, Merwan did not want to go to the school. Shireen confronted him, but he would not listen. When Shariar came home that evening, he also prevailed upon Merwan to go back. He argued with his son, "If you do not go to school now, years will pass by in vain without learning. If you do not like the company of girls, you can simply avoid them. But you have to go to school." So Merwan resumed attendance the next day. Merwan was very shy before girls. If an occasion arose when he had to speak with a girl, he would stare at the floor while talking to her. Generally, he shied away from their contact. Merwan concentrated on his studies and took an avid interest in games and sports at school. He was a good athlete and especially loved cricket. He always gave his utmost to whatever game or sport he was playing. He was also a fast runner. Although he was not the most intelligent student of the class, Merwan impressed his teachers with his moral conduct. For his exemplary conduct, he was often praised to the principal and his parents.
I guess God allowed him to be kind of, he himself allowed himself to be kind of natural because, he said he didn't have the most intelligence.
Oh, he just was.
There you go.
Very practical, I guess.
Although he was not the most intelligent student in his class.
Yeah. But he was quite intelligent still. But I'm saying he sounded like a well-rounded person. Well-rounded. He wasn't too heady.
Yeah.
But I like the part in that book, the answer where it says, they said, "Did you ever cheat on an exam?" He says, "No, but I helped someone one time." He helped someone.
But I helped someone.
Yeah, I helped someone.
It's very interesting. Anyway, where did I get lost at?
Once after lunch.
Yeah, Merwan returned to school early. There was plenty of time before classes resumed, so he wandered to a solitary place and surveyed the surroundings. A girl in search of her friend happened to come by and, requesting his help, caught him by the hand. Excuse me. Merwan's attention was elsewhere, and her sudden appearance startled him. He tried to pull his hand away, but the girl held on tightly. Seeing that she would not let go, he gently pushed her away, but she lost her balance and fell.
Oh, no.
The little girl cried and ran to report the matter to a teacher who punished Merwan. He took the beating without a word.
And they literally beat.
Oh, my. Merwan was beat. Oh, my. Baba.
Sorry.
I was tied to a bed till I was 3 years
old.
old.
My.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tied to a bed.
Isn't that wild?
That's pretty.
He had to experience
Merwan, when he was an infant, he started walking when he was 1.
Yeah.
And so when he was left out of the sight of his mother or father,
Somehow
he'd go out
escape.
into the street and start playing and doing this and traffic. So people would bring him back in, and then he'd put him by and he'd go back out. So finally the mother tied a sari like a leash to her bedpost and put rice and water in front of
It's
him.
amazing that he didn't
Like a dog.
get a broken leg.
She put a bowl of rice. She fed him like a little puppy.
See, I wonder when the buffalo episode took place, because that
It probably was around that time, probably, when he was just a little scallywag.
Very interesting. Okay. Moreover, on his own volition, he approached the girl and apologized for pushing her.
For a little kid like
what an amazing
that.
kid.
Wow.
Oh, the prince.
Yeah, the principal of the Dastur school was a European named Miss E. Chatham. Her affection for Merwan was very touching. A day would not pass without her speaking with the girl.
Oh, the ladylike.
Yeah. The lady would also invite him to her house for dinner,
Wow.
which was unusual since Merwan was not of the upper class. At that time, the Dastur school only admitted boys at the primary level. So after 1 year, Merwan switched schools. On his last day, Miss Chatham embraced him tenderly and imparted a few words of advice. Merwan liked his teacher very much. He listened with downcast eyes and shed tears at their parting, knowing he would miss her. Merwan was growing up and beginning to experience some of the unpleasant things in life.
I bet that woman was really got tremendous grace.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for her too. Wow, for her. Wow.
I mean, well, I don't know though. Before Merwan was given that realization, I wondered. Well, he still was out.
That's right.
He was just veiled.
Yeah.
Right. There would have been no
What a
obvious,
yeah.
no obvious indications.
You could almost see that. I'd love to see somebody maybe write a play with this Miss Chatham in it.
Oh, isn't that
great? Somebody play her.
I think that's what it all is. Not only do I think that, I think that the appearances are simply appearances, but the power behind the appearance. I think there's a whole universe yet to be scratched when somebody does a play.
Yeah.
That's my.
Does what for you?
Writes the movie about.
Somebody writes a
play. Because that scene is so touching. You could just see. And that would relate to Western minds, or could see a Westerner relating to him, not just total Indian setting.
Yeah.
This whole situation reminds me of that story, and I probably told you this half dozen times, of the story that Fred Winterfeld told me in Myrtle Beach. See, I went to Myrtle Beach. I was in Boston, New York, or somewhere. But Fred Winterfeld, I didn't know this, but Fred Winterfeld never drove anybody but Baba. Well, I go to Myrtle Beach. I need to go to the grocery store. It's like my first day there. And so they said, well, Kennedy, in the morning, you come on over and somebody will take you to the grocery store. Okay, fine. So I get up and I bob down to the kitchen. They said, it's time for you to go to the store. I said, yeah, who's going to take me? Well, nobody says anything. I said, who's going to take me? They said, well, you got to go to the cabin. Fred's going to take you. Everybody's depressed. And I said, well, my God.
Everybody's depressed. Why are they depressed?
Because Fred, he never drove anybody but Mama. So I go to the house.
Because you're getting the favor?
Yeah, I go. It was weird. So I go to the house. I said, well, Fred, you ready? He says, yeah, I'm ready. Well, see, I didn't know that he didn't drive anybody.
Oh.
So me and Fred are heading down Kings Highway in the Myrtle Beach. He says, Kennedy, he says, it's really strange. He says, Kennedy, he says, not a lot of people love you. I said, well, Fred, I said, that's not unusual.
That's not unusual.
He says, they don't think you're a Bible lover. I said, well, that's not unusual either. Quite frankly, it doesn't bother me, Fred. He says, but I see something. He says, I know something about you. He says, let me tell you this story. He says, me, Baba, and Adi were going into Myrtle Beach just like you and me are now, on the same highway in the same direction. He says, now, Kennedy, we left the gatehouse. He says, I helped build Myrtle Beach. I put the barn up. I built Kitty's house. I built Jane's house, Lagoon Cabin. He says, I did all this stuff. He says, don't you know I got lost in the center? I said, well, what do you mean? He says, well, Baba kept telling me to turn right on this road and keep going. He says, well, I drove. He says, well, gee, I don't understand being this speed. Well, whatever. He says, well, okay, Fred, turn left. And he was turning around talking to Adi, giving Adi all these signs, and they were having this conversation. He says, well, then they drive for 15 or 20 minutes. Fred said, well, gee, he says, I don't understand being this speed. He says, well, turn right. He says, we spent a half an hour to go out the gate that was 5 minutes from the cabin we started from. He says, so then we get on the road, and Baba's telling the story of, there's two stories he told. I'll tell when he's coming back. They're coming back from Myrtle Beach. Baba's telling Adi the story of Krishna and Arjuna. Is it Arjuna when they're having this war? Yeah. Where he's telling this story by signals to Adi in the back seat. And Adi's right. Is that what he's doing? He says, well, he says at the further he drove, that the story that Adi was telling him, that he couldn't see the highway, that he saw armies coming up King's Highway. So he couldn't see any cars. He didn't know how fast he was going. Fred
saw Krishna's army?
Him and Baba were there. Oh, it was,
I mean, Baba took him back. Yeah. The story, he took him back into time.
Yes. He saw Baba. He said he couldn't see the road. He couldn't see trees, couldn't see cars, anything. So he's driving, he's doing like 70 or 80. He says, I couldn't see, but he slowed down. And Bob would say, go faster, Fred, go faster.
Oh my goodness, he's always telling me something faster.
And he says, well, Bob, I'm going too fast. He says, well, Bob says, don't talk to me now, I'm talking to Ani. He's doing like 80, he can't see. He says, Kennedy, he says that it got down to the point where I could see about an inch or two in front of me. That was it. And the rest of it was all warriors, horses, chariots.
Were they splitting?
Yeah, it was the whole horizon.
How was he getting through?
They were all coming towards it.
Oh my God.
The entire horizon was covered
but
with
it was
crystals.
illusion, like he had to keep going, seeing us, and just, Baba was saying,
Baba
go
told
fast.
him every time he slows down, right? Well, I don't know about all that, but every time he slowed down, I wondered why he's telling me the story.
Right, of course.
What a story.
He said, he says, I like you, I'm going to tell you this. I said, well, Fred, you ever expect me to repeat it? Who's going to, that's such a wild story.
Wow.
He told me, too, there's another one, but
He
sometimes
was wild. He was wild.
Yeah, it gets to me to this very
So why
day
did
when
he
told me
decide to
that.
give you a ride?
I don't know. But when I got back to the center, that's what everybody says, well, Kennedy, what's so special about you? And I'm saying, what are you talking about? So Fred doesn't drive anybody. He'll barely take Ella to the store when she wants to go.
Wow.
And he, for some reason he told me, but they picked me up a couple times in Ella,
What year was that?
Yeah, what year was that?
70s?
I met you before that. That was in 70. That was
Long-winded.
kind of like
Your tape is going to be used.
Abe Lincoln, 7 years ago.
That's a great story. I mean, because we used to
That
hear
is a
stories of
wow.
good
Yeah, I've heard
stories.
stories
But being
from
in Baba's
Fred
company.
that were.
Oh, he used to tell you some too?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
What about his, when he got severely burned? He had a wild story.
The time
I
when
can't
he was,
remember.
Ella came to him when she was heartbroken because the 3 incredible weeks and the men can go but the women couldn't, and she was like, I don't know, she came to him somehow in a dream, or he saw her standing. I forgot what the story was, but I used to hover over his bed when he had a heart attack and stuff. See his body laying down.
It doesn't surprise me about her. That was one of the most unusual people I have ever met in my entire life.
Ella?
That couple?
Fred.
That whole couple, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fred Ellis.
She was
Fred
an
Ellis.
exceptional form.
Yeah.
She was a different kind of female too.
Yeah.
He's,
Oh, she was like a bird. I remember her coming up when I first met her. She just flew up and she was real hot-blooded and you could feel it. But she was almost like a bird. I mean, she came quick to me in the library and I went, wow.
It's like she was there, but she wasn't.
Was she related to, she was
very
related
interesting.
to, what's your jigger, Rudolph Steiner? Wasn't she? She's a relative or something.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
It's amazing how we're all connected.
He's her uncle or something.
Right, yeah, that was. Anyway, but reading this stuff reminds me of that because I can see some of these. I mean, with the bulls and all this stuff coming. I mean, I can see that. It's not an objective, intellectual kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like I'm there when it's, the whole thing is happening. Right. Okay. Okay. Let's see. On August 31st, 1903, at the age of 9, Merwan entered the Pune Camp Government English School. He went to the school for the next 5 years. It was an all-boys school, a beautifully constructed building located near the Pune pharmaceutical stores on the main street. It was an old school built by the British for students from the wealthier families of Pune and Bombay. Here Merwan encountered older students and became a favorite of many. His inner nature was reflected by his sympathetic and helpful attitude. His companions loved him dearly and looked to him as their natural leader. He was such a favorite that many were always eager to sit, eat, and play with him whenever they had a chance.
oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Since he was so popular, some youngsters became jealous and out of envy formed a gang against Merwan and his comrades. Merwan, however, would ignore their hostility, believing that today's enemies were tomorrow's friends. And he did not react to their antagonists.
That's so sweet.
This game was led by Merwan's friend Bailey, Bailey's older brother Hormuz Irani, Hami, as he was called, was a desperate character with a mean streak who would go out of his way to harass Merwan. Excuse me. Once while playing field hockey at the school, Tommy's team was beaten by Merwan's, and the angry boy deliberately struck Merwan on the shin with his hockey stick.
What's the shin again? This
Right
part
here, right
Oh.
here. Ooh, that hurts.
Yeah.
Merwan's leg hurt intensely, and had it been anyone else, he would have fallen on the ground crying. However, Merwan not only took the blow without complaint, but also did not strike back.
Oh, my.
Tommy was deeply impressed, and though outwardly he remained Merwan's enemy, inwardly he started to respect.
Ooh.
Merwan excelled in athletics at the government school. When he won prizes in different games, he would always share them with his friends or teammates. As a boy, he was disciplined. He had fixed times for his studies, readings, and games from which he would seldom deviate. He would rise early, and after his ablutions, would pray in a melodious voice. Would pray aloud in a melodious voice.
Oh.
Merwan had been gifted with an exquisite singing voice.
Oh.
And Mara said she used to talk about it as his crucifixion, that he had to be silent.
His voice was so beautiful.
Yeah, she says it was, Baba suffered, he had a beautiful voice. And of course, she would never talk about the accident, and they would always avoid the accident in Oklahoma. No one ever talked about it. And she says crucifixion was that he didn't talk, that he was silent. Because she said he loved life, he was telling jokes. His voice was so beautiful. And then, can you imagine? Yeah.
Maybe she's right. That was his crucifixion, not the
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
can you imagine what it would be like? Oh, shit. I mean, it's great for
You
a
said
day.
you
but
can, huh? Okay.
especially if he's singing. I mean, to give up singing? Yeah. To give up singing it would be worse than giving up talking.
Oh.
If you love singing.
You better listen to me anyway. So.
Oh, sing us a song.
All right. Okay. All right, I'm going to read now. All right.
Sing it out.
Are you getting reading, Larry?
Are you ready?
Well,
Like down to halfway
you want me to
through?
finish it?
Yeah, why don't you go
Whatever
to?
you feel like.
Why don't you go to the?
You're not in the
Why don't you
battle.
read this
You gotta finish
page?
the page.
Why don't you
Yeah.
finish this page
Yeah.
and then Rosalie will.
Yeah.
Let's see. The neighbors would also rise just to hear him sing. It had been said that when he sang, it seemed as if the rippling waters of a river of poetry were flowing by.
Yeah.
The boy's singing and clarity of notes affected every heart that was fortunate enough to hear him.
Oh.
After prayers, the boy would have his breakfast and attend to his studies. From childhood, Merwan was devoutly religious. Like all faithful Zoroastrians, he would attend the Parsi Agari fire temple with his parents, and the priests were impressed by his devotion. With Merwan's elder brother Jamshid, the Na-o-Joti sacred thread ceremony was performed before a gathering of highly respected Zoroastrians of Pune when he was about 10 years old. But the boy was not drawn to the ceremonial atmosphere of the fire temple, and used to thumb rapidly through the pages of the prayer book, hoping the service would soon end. Merwan, however, seemed to innately understand the meaning of true spirituality, as evidenced by these words spoken to his friends when he was only 12 years old. Every soul lives in the world only a short time, and when it is our time to leave this world, we go empty-handed. We do not know in the least at what moment we will make our departure from this caravan. Sarai, caravanserai. Sooner or later we have to go, leaving everything dear to us. In spite of knowing this, it is sheer foolishness to be attached to this world and its possessions and hold to them at all cost. It is meant for us to make good our short-lived and momentary existence, which we can do by following the teachings of our prophet, Zarathustra. If we strictly carry out the tenets of our religion, good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, our life will be a success. and by freeing ourselves from this life's toils, we will enjoy quite a different life.
Wow.
12-year-old.
She sounded like Jesus.
Just some more.
When Jesus
Let
talked.
me take over you.
Well, let me finish a little paragraph here. Merwan then composed these lines. This world is ephemeral, the soul is eternal. That world is everlasting, the soul is immortal. Its motion is indestructible, its love incomparable. O pilgrim, stretch your feet on this holy path. Do your utmost to realize eternity. Then only will you be happy in both worlds.
Wow.
Oh,
It was a poet.
Let's read that again.
This should be printed again.
Yeah, that should be printed.
The world is ephemeral, the soul is
Eternal.
That world is everlasting, the soul immortal. Its motion is indestructible, its love incomparable.
O pilgrim, search your feet on this holy path. Do your utmost to realize eternity. And only will you be happy in both worlds.
Jai Baba.
Wow.
If a 12-year-old ever told me that.
In both worlds.
12-year-old.
I wonder if it was
That's
12
what
when he
Jesus,
wrote
remember when he
this.
went to the Pharisees and preached to them? He was 12 when
Yeah,
he went into
that's
the
true.
temple.
That's true.
He was 12 and they were amazed by his wisdom.
Yeah.
12 is a pretty amazing age
Yeah,
for a child.
it
They're
is.
not in their teens. They're still a child, but it's like that. It's like what 20 years old is to an adult as you go into sort of that Middle Earth thing.
Transition.
Yeah.
Important.
Interesting.
was fine by Mormon.
67.
Oh,
7 there. So
Yeah,
it's
Mormon religion was
Yeah.
about
before them,
12-year-old
they're
child.
totally innocent.
But
Oh,
I
yeah,
think,
I live about 30 miles from there where Mormon temple.
but Lynn, I think it happens
So
in
you're
different
up in
ages
New York.
because
Oh, New York?
Yeah.
remember
Farmland.
Mara embracing Andy and he was older.
Yeah, she put her hand on Merwan's shoulder when he was 12.
Yeah.
Who did? Yeah.
He found out
But she
woman
held Andy
something
when
along
he was
the
7.
hill.
You see, she never touches children that are
every year in August.
And
Oh,
the-
my.
Mara held Andy. When he
Andy.
was Andy, when he was 7 and a half.
Yeah.
And he was big in a way, wasn't
Yeah.
he?
Oh,
He was
she
big.
did. I have a picture.
Well, there was
of
a
the best
special
part of
embracing.
something. And then Murr, she
Yeah.
put her hand on his shoulder and he was 12.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, good person. Is it my
Yeah,
turn
no,
or your turn?
Right.
Your turn and then my turn. Unless you want me to read this. You do it. I'm thirsty just listening to you.
Wasn't it? How much you sell this one?
Oh, you
I
but yeah,
have to
sure.
look, I
Lenny.
forget.
Some young lady
$30.
$30.
Yeah.
Also, this reminded me, I forgot to announce at the Buddha night that they had great news that came from India in the form of a letter, and that is that God Speaks has been approved
Oh, yeah.
to be published in Persian
Yeah.
in Iran.
Gentleman that was here is going to do it.
Who's going to do it? Oh, that Sufi gentleman,
Farhad Shafa.
Fahad.
Oh, Farhad Shafa.
Is he going to do it?
Now we put all money.
That's what Meher News told me.
They made it $6,000.
Wow. Isn't that wonderful?
Very
God
good.
Speaks is going to be in Persian.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'll get some
Anybody
myself on you.
I think there's a message there for us, then you will be fine in both worlds.
Oh, by the way,
Yeah,
I have,
Yeah,
I have
there's
your
a
card.
serious message in there.
Oh, yeah, that's wonderful. I have your card upstairs. I
There's
had to
also
send it.
there's a message in the other part.
Oh,
The
and
card
that-
I was sending him.
And Val's card, too.
On this other part over here,
Every soul
You're
is
gonna mail
in
Val's
heart.
card.
where he talks about this
So we can send him a
caravanserai.
bunch of
You
Yeah.
see the picture?
Yeah, just keep
Who's that
sending
thing?
me one once a month.
Yeah.
Once every other, once every
which
year.
one?
So just keep sending her. Just get a ton of
What
cards.
do you mean?
Well, I thought it was on one of the pictures, but I don't see it. But it's on one of the books. I love that picture.
Oh, I don't know.
There it is right there.
It's like that.
She did that.
See over in the corner right there?
Oh, the whole
I don't blame her.
That's
She
what
did
that
it.
is.
stream
See,
of
the
That's the
consciousness. Is that what you
caravanserai.
mean?
But
Oh.
that's it. That's the
Oh, I didn't
caravanserai.
know.
That's what
The
he's talking
art's a
about.
degree or.
Oh.
Sounds nice.
The caravanserai, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He's 12 years old.
Yeah, tell him.
That's it. That's all.
Well, of course, we just read it.
Bombay
We
just
read
got
it.
like get something to eat. And
Yeah, how did you know?
The gym.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Did you know this, Fred? That this is the caravansary that he was talking about?
It's very expensive.
That's the caravansary about the
$300.
story. It's the same thing that follows, evolution. It's part of that whole process. So this is what he's talking about.
Pardon? Oh, good, yeah. And that's all right. Oh, great.
I can't call out.
You don't even know what
Monday, 2 days, 3 days, and then they go another place.
hundreds of
That
dollars.
place they call caravan.
Oh, I can't even
Caravan.
say
Sarah,
it.
that's his house. Sarah. Caravan is caravan.
Well, I think,
they go another place.
I think the caravansary is
Go
just
respect
your,
that, he said.
it's that, it can be that because that's your journey to God. Kennedy says to him, this is the caravansary.
Oh, let's see here.
Yeah, it's your whole journey,
That's the different lifetimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Before we go into the inner path.
Right.
I'm not doing inner path.
Where's Devin?
She said she...
Yeah.
Dad, we're going to start. Are you going to be ready in a few minutes?
I'm going to run to the bathroom.
No, I could just see if I was sitting, places I went when I was
Well, when you were a kid.
When I was a kid.
Oh, was he young or old or what?
I saw a picture of it. It was probably maybe 30, 29.
Oh, sweet.
But I saw a picture of him. This was the guy I used to see those.
Oh my God, when he was 30, he was exquisite.
Your mom knows, Baba.
Oh my Lord, that's right. That's right around the time he went silent.
She'd seen some of the books.
Oh Lord, yeah.
Before when you said your mom, she know this Baba.
Yeah, she was
About 30. So he was about in the 1926.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
God. Oh, he's so beautiful.
Just to sitting at the dining room table, in the kitchen, and walking around.
Wow.
This went on for like 3 or 4 years.
Was he in a sadra?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to think it was the weirdest thing, a man with a dress on,
Debbie, listen, he would see Baba when he was little.
You would?
Yeah. Young Baba.
How old are you?
Maybe 7, 8, 9, 10.
And you would see Baba? Did you know who he was then?
I didn't want to saw a picture of him.
So he would be
So what
walking
would you
around
say?
in a dress?
Say you had an
I talked to
imaginary
him just like
friend.
I'm talking to you.
No, but I mean, what was
I
your?
told my mother.
Did you tell your mother? And what did she? What was her reaction?
Her reaction was, it's okay. Well, it got to be bad because one time she told me that next time you see this man in our house, this is really embarrassing. She says, next time you see this man in our house, you let me know, okay? So don't you know she's got a house full of her friends?
Oh my God.